Hi, I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. Going through the text again this year, asking Jesus to clarify for me, and then I write from that clarity, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. We're reading from A Course in Miracles, Chapter 7, Section 9, The Extension of the Kingdom, and today we're going to read paragraphs 5 and 6. Paragraph 5 says, your creations are protected for you because the Holy Spirit, who is in your mind, knows of them and can bring them into your awareness whenever you will let him. They are there as part of your own being because your fulfillment includes them. The creations of every son of God are yours, since every creation belongs to everyone, being created for the sonship as a whole. My creations are protected for me and always will be. They are part of my being, just as I am part of God's being. Every creation of every son of God is mine as well, because they were created for the sonship as a whole. This is fairly amazing for me to even think of, but I can accept it as being part of the self I don't remember yet. I am most certainly the Son of God. I am whole and perfect like my Father. This is true, and I accept it as being true, even though I do not have the full experience of it yet. And I accept that someday I will not just believe it is true, but I will know it is true. I accept that I will feel like the Son of God when the ego is fully undone. All this seems like something that is going to happen in the future, even though I'm told that it is happening right now. It feels like something that is coming, but it's not here yet. But I'm wrong about that. God creates only the mind awake. Thus, I must be awake. I need only look away from the darkness and into the light to be aware of mind awake. Up until now, my default state has been ego, that is, darkness. As I consistently decide to be what I am, awake will become my default. The part that just blows me away is that the Holy Spirit knows of them and can bring them into my awareness whenever I let him. Whenever I let him. Holy Spirit, I just don't know what to think about this. Can this mean that you can do this for me right now? Can I know of my creation simply because I want to? Do I have to be fully and permanently awake for this to happen? Or does this mean that I can be fully awake when I want to, and I will then remember my creations? What happened when I first began to study this is that I felt afraid. I was afraid that nothing would happen if I said yes. And maybe it was better not to know for certain that the answer was no. Truthfully, I didn't believe anything would happen, which probably guaranteed nothing would happen. If nothing happened, then that would mean the truth is not true, or as I suspected, that I was unworthy of the truth. Well, I saw the fear and the doubt, and I knew it was the ego. I'm not the ego, and I wanted to know what it feels like to remember my creations. I wanted that awareness in my mind. Here's a prayer that I had in my heart. Holy Spirit, thank you for helping me to see this fear in my mind. I do want this, and I ask you to heal the part of my mind that is uncertain and afraid. These days, I'm so much more accepting of the answer. I'm aware when the ego is in use, and I change my mind. Nor do I argue against it or try to justify it. I just let it go to the Holy Spirit. Nearly always, it is quick and easy. I remind myself that the light in my mind does not go out just because I stare into the darkness. I change my perspective, and there is the light shining brightly as always. Paragraph 6. You have not failed to increase the inheritance of the sons of God, and thus have not failed to secure it for yourself. Since it was the will of God to give it to you, he gave it forever. Since it was his will that you have it forever, he gave you the means for keeping it, and you have done so. Disobeying God's will is meaningful only to the insane. In truth, it is impossible. Your self-fullness is as boundless as God's. Like his, it extends forever and in perfect peace. Its radiance is so intense that it creates imperfect joy, and only the whole can be born of its wholeness. What a beautiful thing to read this morning. And lesson 156 assures me that I walk with God in perfect holiness. It reminds me that thoughts leave not their source, and so as a thought of God, I remain in God. And now, as I read today's paragraph, I am further assured that it is not possible that I disobey God's will. What he has given me is given forever, and I cannot lose it. As I read this paragraph and take in what it says to me, I'm overjoyed. My self-fullness is as boundless as God's, and it extends forever and in perfect peace. This is the truth, not the small ego self that I made to take the place of my self-fullness. I intend to place my focus on the truth today. When I notice that my thoughts are wandering into ego again, I will remember my holiness and place my awareness on the truth instead. Is this how we wake up? Do we simply choose to place our awareness on the truth each time we notice that we're focused on our ego? After all, nothing is happening when we think our ego thoughts and watch our ego stories. The only thing that's actually happening is happening in God, where I am creating in perfect joy. If I keep shifting my attention back to reality, surely I will soon decide to stay there. Typically, our default is the ego, but this changes as we forgive, that is, let go the ego thoughts. Generally, this is a slow process, but can be sped up if we are vigilant and consistent in releasing those untrue thoughts. When we have practiced this enough, the default becomes the truth. It is really very simple, though it can feel difficult. We keep what we want and let go of what we don't want. Once we understand that we don't want anything that blocks our awareness of love's presence, we're well on our way to remembering who we are. And that's exciting and makes me happy to think about. Thank you so much for joining me in this reading. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, then please like it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. I'll be back soon with another reading. See you then.